What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Breaking the Kernel. Today we're talking about Gen Zers. So let's get right into it. I feel like so many people, man, have nothing but bad things to say about Gen Zers. I see so many think piece videos on YouTube. I talk to my friends about it. People have no hope for Gen Zers, and it's so funny because Gen Zers, as of 2025, take up the age range of 13 to 28 years old. That is every single person in Gen Z can work, pay taxes, and contribute to the economy. And a lot of them can vote. So they're very vital. And I feel like people are just writing that generation off and focusing on millennials and focusing on like the age groups outside of the generations outside of Gen Z. And that doesn't make any sense. Again, especially I love when millennials complain about Gen Zs because there's not much of a difference between millennials and Gen Zers. There really isn't. Like when you really look down to nitty gritty, there's not much of a difference. One generation is just a little closer to death than the other one. That's about it. That's about it. But like honestly, what's really that different between the two generations? Really? Hell, it's safe. You honestly, if you listen, if you get all your news and life experiences from the internet, it seems like Gen Zers make more money doing content creation and live better than most millennials. If that's how you want to look at it, but I think it's unfair the rep that Gen Zers are getting because I remember back in 2020 when the protests were happening, a lot of the media and news and social media in general focused on all the Gen Z influencers that went and just took pictures and videos of themselves doing something for 2 seconds, then hopped in the car and left, setting stuff on fire, stuff like that. They didn't focus on the Gen Zers who organized peaceful protesting, who communicated with the local officials and police force to make sure people were safe during these demonstrations and legally allowed protests. They didn't focus on how they got schools involved, and these school walkouts. Like there's as I'm talking, there's a walkout happening in a high school in my county or my former county where I used to live, where their fellow classmates got deported, so they scheduled a walkout. Okay, now again, Gen Z is people from 13 to 28, so there's still a good chunk of them that's still in high school right now, and because man, Gen Z is from 97 to 2012, I believe. So at the end of the day, I think it's so weird to just always negative, 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 negative. Like you take such a small sample size and you're like, oh, this is all Gen Z. No, bro. Gen Z to me, I see resourcefulness. Because they're in a weird era, man. Again, I'm not that far removed. Millennials are not that far removed from Gen Z, at all. Because at the end of the day, really, for the latter half of millennials and all of Gen Z, you have, or a little bit, like a majority of Gen Z, you live in a post 9/11 world. You had to deal with the housing crisis. I directly got impacted by that. I remember us being displaced because we lost our home. There's a lot of people who lost their homes. I remember, obviously COVID-19. Like there's so many things that Gen Zers and millennials had to deal with, and they still figure it out. A lot of them don't complain. A lot of them understand their situation and try and get it by any means necessary, bro. Just like every other generation before it, you just get out of the mud. A lot of people have they just have to, and to say that that's resourceful is really weird. Because at the end of the day, who's making a lot of content and making a lot of money? Gen Zers are doing that. They're doing a lot of e-commerce. They're doing all these, the lemonade stand you had as a kid has now turned into making content or making some type of graphic design T-shirt or something and selling out online. Like they're getting it how they can. Okay. And another thing that's interesting, when you take off your privilege glasses, right, there's a lot of places in America where education is not good, the budget's non-existent, And and there's a lot of people who grew up in an era where technology was rapidly advancing and computers were finding their way in every home and in every school. When I was growing up, my school got rid of all our computers. The only computers that were there was for administration and the teachers. That was it. They took away all our computers. We used to have computer lab classes where we'll go into the computer lab and we'll have classes to learn how to type, to learn how to browse on the internet properly, to learn how to do research papers, obviously, for Works Cited, all these things. All these things. And they took those away from us because they're underfunded. And so you had a bunch of years with no computers, people not learning how to use computers in school anyway, and then just going to high school being computer illiterate. That happened. I grew up, I remember the one field trip that's really memorable is when they took a couple of our classes to the county jail. So it was like set up where it's like city hall kind of, and they obviously have a jail, and then they have like the mayor's office and stuff. And they took all the black and brown kids to the jail side, the holding cell side, and took everybody else to the side where you're not going to be in prison. And I remember the police officer sitting all of us down with a prisoner inside one of the cells and said, "That's going to be y'all." And that was education for me growing up. So imagine doing that and going through that. And this is a true story. Shout out to Arizona. You have like that as your education and that as your getaway, and then you grow up in that kind of situation, and then eventually you're in college because you barely can afford that, and eventually you're let loose in the world and you're like, good luck. It's real hard to survive and thrive in that kind of situation. I know it's really easy to say, boo-hoo, I had to do... It's not about comparing traumas here. It's not. Because I'm sorry that you had to also have a worse experience than that or equal to that. I'm sorry that that's the case for you. Because that's not fair. That's not something that you should have dealt with. Other people were going to zoos and movie theaters and stuff. We went to a jail cell. And we're told by the police that was going to be us in a couple of years. That's what they told children. And they took our computers away, and that was a county issue, and that has happened to many other people, not just me. And when that is how you grow up, and when those are the situations that you live through, you get a little pissed off when you grow up and you're trying your best to survive just like everybody else, you're struggling to find a job just like everybody else, and they have a bunch of people who are not that much older than you telling you that you're going to fail and that you're the issue, that you're the problem. And that's bullshit. And if anything, I hate millennials the most. I am one as well. I'm a millennial. I hate millennials the most because they are so contradictory, bro. Like, they are so... If anything else, millennials are scared to fail, bro. I know that they like to say Gen Zers are, but millennials too, we're scared to fail. We're scared. We are scared. And the reason why I say that, because I've talked to so many people who want to start projects and do things with their lives, and they just don't do it. And that's fear. And not even about resources. I've seen people with little to no resources still do it. And you know why? Because they're not fucking scared of failure. Millennials are very scared of failure, bro. And we're pushing that fear onto other generations, onto other people. And that's not fair. I'm sorry. I've seen my fair share of Gen Zers do just fine or trying to figure it out just like everybody else. And you know how tiring it is to have the whole world say that you're the failure, even though you barely even started this thing called life yet, and they're already calling you failure, bruh. And trust me, there's statistics and things to show that you should be very afraid for Gen Zers. But I say all that stuff, I spend that whole 9 minutes to say, like, to contextualize the world for Gen Zers is what I was trying to do. Like, let's take it easy, bro. Let's take it easy for a second. Alright? Because every generation has had to inherit issues from a previous generation. Don't even get me started on baby boomers. Don't even get me started on that group. Okay? So that's a whole different video. So let's just pump the brakes and embrace one another and be like, hey, we have a unique situation where we have two generations, really about to be three, or really is three, where we're all technologically savvy, or we can be. Let's learn from one another, let's embrace one another, and let's find ways to make this world better, because we are the three groups that will be here for the long haul and have to deal with whatever's happening. You know what I mean? So instead of disregarding Gen Z, we should really embrace them and figure out a way to heal society together and move forward together. Because a lot of Gen Z's issues are also millennials' issues as well. I don't understand why, again, I do not understand why millennials think they are so different and far apart from Gen Z. Even the ones who are on the very early part of being a millennial, you're still not that much different from Gen Zers. Yes, you grew up in a completely different world, a completely different environment when it comes to technology and all that stuff. But again, in terms of inheriting Earth, you're still going to be here for quite. I'm part of millennials, so saying me too. We're all still going to be here for a long time. You know what I mean? God willing. So let's just drop the bullshit and let's just stop being bitter and let's just relax for a second. Let's relax for a second. With that being said, Gen Zers, you do have issues. Just like everybody else, but you do have issues. Social etiquette is definitely lost with Gen Zers. It is. And that's partly for a couple of reasons. One of them being how digitally connected the world is. Mixed with the COVID-19 times. And mixed with parents having to work their fucking asses off and also, like, so they're not really interacting with their kids as much. And also they can't afford, because now everything's so monetized, they can't afford to have them in these programs and stuff to play sports and things like that. And also because of years and years of heavy budget cuts. There's no after school programs anymore. I don't even blame teachers for not wanting to stay after work anymore. Like there's so much disconnect that in the formative years for a lot of these youths, that the social etiquette, of course, is going to be gone. Of course, is going to be gone, because we skipped so many crucial steps to ensure social etiquette. And now, there's so much you had to learn before you get to the phase where your parents just drop you off in a public space with your own devices and like $5. You know what I mean? Now parents are dropping off their unruly children, and their children are fucking monsters. I'm sorry. Your kids are fucking monsters, bro. They have no type of social etiquette. They don't care. Okay? They have no type of accountability or discipline at all. And they think they can get away with every and anything until they can. Part of that is confidence, and part of that is just ignorance of not knowing what discipline looks like. I can't tell you how many movies I've been to and just see like teenagers and young adults just be the most annoying fucking people. Like, there's so many public spaces where there's supposed to be some type of decorum, and there's none. Zero, zilch. And it's horrible, bro. It's horrible. And like, yeah, brother, man. Yeah. Like, Gen Z, man, it's such an interesting group because they can really accomplish and change so much. And I do believe when Gen Zers when they get around to that 40, 50 range, and they're really into, they have their footprint in politics and in shaping the world itself, followed by us, I think, like the last of the millennials, I do believe that they will be the ones who help shape the laws, rules, and regulations behind a lot of like this AI stuff, like a lot of the issues, some of Some of the funny enough, some of the foreign policy that's really old and should be ditched out by now. I think because how interconnected, like there's so many people now more than ever, of course, who have friends overseas, who have family overseas. People are all over the place now, digitally, and they can go fly, meet their friends, whatever. Like there's so much connectivity in today's era that I feel like it'll take a couple of generations of being used to that to start seeing borders change for in a good way and start seeing more collaboration, because Gen Zers do collaborate a lot. People, that's one thing people act like they don't do. They collaborate quite a bit. Quite a bit. I see a lot more older people lean more into individualism and lean into more me, and no collective good. I've seen younger people like get way more collaborative and care way more about what the collective good thinks. Now that could go away because of who's teaching them, but still, I'm starting to see something. There's positivity out there. It can fix itself, but there is a bunch of negative, and part of that is the parenting. And I'm not going to tell anyone how to parent their kids. I can't tell what you're doing at home, but I can see the result in how your kids act when they're turning into adults or when they're teenagers at the movie theaters or whatever, or malls or some shit. There's so much, society has changed so much in terms of some of the things that helped people grow and mature, right? No one's getting dropped off at malls. Like there's no place, the places for teenagers and young adults to go hang out and get some and blow some steam has drastically changed and narrowed, right? Because some people are like, hey man, I had a long day at school. School was long. Hey, you want to go hit an arcade? That sentence doesn't exist anymore. Or hey man, like you want to go get like a slice of pizza or something? Unless you're like in New York or something, it's hard to do. Shit's expensive. It's no longer you can have $5 and you can go enjoy a good little, you know what I mean? Like $20, you used to be able to go and have a nice little weekend for yourself, bro, after a long week of work. Seriously, you used to be able to do that. I'm gonna go rent a movie. I'm gonna get some popcorn, some candy or something. Have myself a little nice weekend. Cannot do that shit no more. You used to be able to see a movie for pretty cheap up until like 2009. Can't do that shit no more. Yeah, man. To go see 2 movies now is like $50. You're spending anywhere between $40 to $50, brother, to go see 2 movies. So much of of what used to teach social etiquette and places where you used to be able to go on a first date, like some of these things that used to really help develop the youth are gone. And I don't think people understand how vital some of these social spaces were to society and to the development of people's brains and how they acted. They're all gone now. Now people just vape and waste their hard-earned money on DraftKings and FanDuel. Speaking of which, this podcast is sponsored. No, I'm kidding. That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy if I just dropped a FanDuel sponsor ad right there. That'd be crazy. But nah, like, everyone has this FanDuel sponsorship. I mean, there's so much. It's so funny what's promoted. Everything online that's cooking people's brains is just porn, gambling, human disaster after human disaster after human disaster, genocide, etc. That's all that's online, bro. That's all that's online, bro. It's so weird. And it's so depressing, and it's fucking up people's brains, man. It's fucking up people's brains. Dosages of everything is good, but overexposure to even water can harm you. Sometimes you need dosages and the right dosage of everything to be whole. And we're just in a weird era right now, and I don't know what else to say about it. We're just in a weird time. We just are. But I think we need to give Gen Z a break. And I think that we come together as people and we stop with the bullshit and start being, as older people, you know, start being better I'm talking millennials and other people out there, start being better role models and start being good mentors and mentees, and being good brothers, being good sons, being good husbands. There's so much that we also have to fix ourselves, bro. And that's part of growing up. That's part of, I'm still in my 20s. That's part of growing up. That's part of barely. That's part of growing up. That's part of being whole. That's part of being a human being, is that you do go through these grocery stores. You fuck up. Sometimes majorly, sometimes a little bit. But the problem is, do you learn from that? Do you keep going? Do you keep living life? Do you keep doing something positive every day? When you wake up, do you do something positive today that impacted yourself or someone else in a positive way? I believe in that. I believe in waking up every day and trying to do at least one thing positive for me or someone else. And that could mean dropping a podcast episode like this. If I have money, that means I could donate something, or look out for someone, or just call someone, see how they're doing. It's a world of very interesting things. And I think once we stop being so cynical and we start being hopeful and we start using all this technology for good and stop bitching every 30 seconds about how negative things could be, well, maybe because you're a negative person. I don't know what else to tell you. But let's just try to be great, man. Even when the world is telling you not to, you gotta try to be. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Love y'all. Want to hear your thoughts. See y'all on the next one. Peace.